Welcome to the Hot 99ers. Brought to you by Phone Sites. You can build a landing page or website in 5 minutes or less. And tonight's guest is a pretty awesome human being. You're going to love this guy. If you ever looked in the magazines, the catalog magazines, at any major department store, and you see this beautiful family standing on the front lawn or by the beach in the white shirts and the khaki pants, well, he's one of those guys. No, he's not a model for those magazines, but he damn well could be. The whole family could be. So tonight's guest is an Apex executive coach. He's still knocking doors 1 hour a day and killing it. So, Mr. Burton Hughes, welcome to the Hot 99ers. Glad you're here,
sir.
You.
Very glad to be here. Yeah,
man, I'm glad you're here, man. And you and I have talked quite a bit. We've talked offline and online and things like that. And how long have you been in Apex now?
I think I came on in August. I think it was August or September. The time always kind of blurs, but I think it was August or September of 2019. 2019. Yeah. So I've been a little about a year and a half. Is that about right?
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah, like you said, like time collapses and you've got.
Man, it really did. Especially this year, it's been like a time warp. It's just kind of weird. So I can't believe it's Christmas. Like I was putting up the Christmas tree, and I'm like, man, I felt like I just took this thing down. It's crazy. So
it's amazing. Tell. I know there are a lot of people that watch these and want to say, if you're watching these, thank you very much. We're very grateful. We're honored that you show up for the invitation. But a lot of people don't know who some of us are in here. So why don't you tell them a little bit about you and who you are, where you're from, and how you got to where you are right now.
Yeah. So my name is Burton Hughes. I'm originally from Columbus, Ohio. And the biggest thing with me is that I've always been a dreamer. As far back as I can remember, I was always thinking big things. Like I remember having a Lamborghini Countach picture on the wall, and I was always like, one day we're gonna have that. So I was always thinking big, and I was always pretty rambunctious. I wasn't a bad kid, but I was always I was always being told, like, sit down, be quiet, stop asking questions. I mean, I was full of life, and I think that, I read a book this past year. I read it again. It's called Relentless by Tim Grover. And he says, we're born relentless, taught to relent. And that really resonated with me because at a young age, I was always told that, like, tone it down, be normal. Like, you got these lofty dreams, man, but you need to get real. Well, guess what? I never grew out of it, and I'm okay with that. And honestly, I've always felt like an alien, but I feel like once I joined the Apex, I really wasn't an alien. I was just that 1% out there on my own that was just I was struggling to find a place to fit. But when you're out there kind of on your own, you feel like an alien. Like, you need to find some people that you align with. So I remember in 2019, I had been in Dallas about a year, and I knew that I needed to start making those alignments. I needed to start getting into some spheres. I needed to start getting into some networks because it gets kind of lonely when you don't have people to bounce ideas off of. So I reached out to Ruby, and I just shot an instant message over and I said, look, I want to, meeting with Ryan. And, the biggest thing, here we are, right? We're having this talk at 9, but man, there's a lot that went on, but really I was just a dreamer kid that grew up. I was good with sales. I was knocking doors, trying to sell little motocross colors when I was like 6 years old because I wanted to make some money because I wanted to buy a little dirt bike. So, I've always had it. Like, you can't teach that to a kid. Like, you either have it or you don't. It's like innate. So it was in my mind. And I was like, how can I make money? I'm not a lemonade type dude. I'm not a lemonade stand type dude. So I literally cut up motocross magazines. I glued them on some construction paper, made a collage, and I went door to door and sold them. I don't think I make any money, but I think I know I made some money because people were like, look at this kid, kind of taking things into his own hands. And I think I got a few bucks that day, but that was just, in a nutshell, man, that was me. If I laser in on a target, I go after it. And all those lofty goals that I had when I was younger, I've checked pretty much the majority of them off the list.
So tell me about that, like that emotion, like that first time you put in the time and the effort ahead of time, not knowing if you would sell anything. But what was that feeling like when you got your first dollar?
I think I was more impressed. I mean, like I said, I don't think I sold any of those collages, but I knew, like, mowing lawns, I was always trying to generate. I never liked to sit still. And I remember when I was 15 years old, I found out there was this country club and it's called Scioto Country Club in Columbus, Ohio. And if you ever seen the movie Caddyshack, think of like Bushwood. If Scioto Country Club in Bushwood, I mean, that's about what it is, right? It's also where Jack Nicklaus learned to play golf. But the cool thing is with working that job is it was pretty lucrative. So I was 15 years old. I'd get to the golf course around 6:30. You had to be there by 7:30. Or the course opened at 7:30. So you had to get there at 6:30 so you could get into the rotation because it was kind of like an up system, right? And at 15 years old, I would, if I got out and carried a bag or 2 bags or 4 categories, I'd make anywhere from, I don't know, $60 to $150 in 4 and 5 hours. At 15 years old, I don't care who you are, that's really good money. I didn't have my license in high school at all, but I would walk, I would ride a bike, I would get a ride, whatever I had to do to get to the golf course. But I learned at a young age, here's the deal. You always hear people like, it's either this or that, it's always or. I'm like, I'm an and person. So I'm like, I want this and that. So here's what I did. My friends wanted to go to the pool all day. I wanted to go to the pool too. But what did I do? My friends wanted to sleep until 11 o'clock or noon, and then they went to the pool. Well, what I did is I got up at 5:30 in the morning. I either rode my bike, I got a ride. I was at the golf course at 6:30. I got out on a round at 7:30. I'd be done around 11:30 or noon. I'd have $80 to $150 in my pocket, and then I still went to the pool all day. But I had money in my pocket. So at a young age, I learned that you can have both. And the thing is, that wasn't taught to me. I just knew that's what I wanted. And the cool thing about that is we grew up really poor. I grew up in a trailer park. I mean, let's just keep it real. Like, I had no idea we were poor. I remember we were getting our electricity cut off and stuff like that. And instead of my parents freaking out, we would pitch a tent or we'd make a fort in the living room and we would make it a game. So I give it to them that, they, even during those tough times, I remember going to the food pantry and getting boxes of food, but they made it a game. I mean, how humiliating, right? But I knew at a young age, I wanted different. So when I started working at that country club, I was reading the Rob Report magazine. Hell, I didn't even know what a Lexus was. I mean, Toyota Camry, Corvette. I knew what a Lamborghini was, but that was so far off. I thought just movie stars had that. But I'm reading this Rob Report magazine. He's like, hey, buy this helicopter. Why don't you take this yacht? Your family like to ride on this yacht on the weekends. I'm like, who lives like this, right? Well, I was caddying for those people, and I was learning, man. And I just knew that whatever it took, whatever I had to do, that's where I wanted to be, and I wanted that. And still to this day, I've got a lot of lifelong friends that I met, from caddying and my caddy master and all that stuff. And I think that's when my mind opened up of the possibilities of what could be. And I directly related back to that in the life lessons that I learned. Yeah.
So let's go back a little bit, because you said you felt like you were always wanting to go out there and get it and like hustle. Like what was the driving factor? Was it the fact that you were cognizant at some point that the lights were off, or that you guys had to go to the food pantry, or was it something before that?
Man, I honestly, I think I was blissfully unaware, of our scenario. I really was. I mean, my mom, my parents, divorced at a very young age. I don't ever really remember them, being together. And my upbringing was very, very, very tumultuous. Not trying to go like, to the sad stuff, but it was a really rough upbringing. A lot of violence, drugs. Hell, my mom would drop me off at the babysitter in the morning. They would be smoking crack in the kitchen while we were sitting in there watching, cartoons before I went to school. Like, just to give you an idea, like that's real life. That's where I came from. So, but even then I was still a really happy kid. So honestly, I think we're given gifts. I think that the gift that I got from God is that I'm an optimist. I'm an eternal optimist. Even when I still get down, I'm always looking at, even if I land on my back in some of the worst situations, I'm like, you know what? I still think I can get out of this jam or whatever it is. I think that's my gift. So I never made it a game, and I can't even say that it was something that, when the lights were getting cut off and it made it burn, it firing me. No, like, I had it. Whatever it is, if you're born with it, whatever it was, I'll ride my bicycle 100 miles an hour. I remember the day we took my training wheels off, I was in a BMX race. I mean, just to give you an idea, like, man, full throttle, man, just all in. And that's just how it's always been. And I can't really link it back to any other thing, but that I do believe was my gift that, God gave me, was that, the optimism and the drive, and then just the absolute unrelentless, like, wherewithal. Like, when people quit, I'm still in the fight. And I think maybe I wasn't the most talented guy. I know I'm not the most smartest, but I'm the hardest working typically, and I will outwork and I will outlast. And eventually you're the only one last standing. So I feel like that's really how my life has been, you know?
Glad you brought that up. And it's a question I wanted to ask you, because we're going to go a little bit deeper. And you've talked about this before. You've talked about this as it pertains to insecurities. And a lot of people, they're still attached to those emotions from, you know, similar past, or maybe a similar background, or the disappointments like abandonment or drug usage or loss of everything, you know, material or even friends and family. How did you make that gap, you know, after having those good habits established, like going into young adulthood? What did you do to kind of get through some of those obstacles that you had encountered? Did you have imposter syndrome? Did you get hit with insecurities from time to time? So what'd you do?
I still have those insecurities. I talk about it all the time. I think that's where real life happened. You know, my brother was killed in a drug deal, and that's when I was forced to grow up. You know, that changes you. It changes a person, right? I mean, the sad part about it is with that, after talking to the police wanted to rule it a suicide because they figured out it's street justice. So they didn't do powder on his hands. There was a lot of inconsistencies, like he was shot in his left temple, my brother's right-handed. Another one of our uncles tried to kill himself with a .22 pistol, and it didn't kill him. So the things just didn't add up, but the cops, they didn't want to look into it because they looked, just one less drug dealer in the world. They didn't care. They ruled it a suicide and down the road. But at 12 years old, I was forced into like real life, you know, and I was, you know, I don't know other way to say it, but that's when, you know, my childhood ended, and I had to become a man. And I don't know how, I just can't say it'll change you, but it does. It taught me two things. I idolized my brother, right? So I was wanting to go down that path because I idolized him. I thought it was cool. And I remember one time I counted, he dropped a money clip. It had like $1,100 in it. And it was more money than I'd ever seen, right? And I could have gone that path, you know, but once I learned that, I knew that, you know, I don't do drugs. I don't touch them. I don't go down that road. So that taught me the lesson. So I think in a way it saved me. Where I grew up, the west side of Columbus was very rough. So, you know, I remember my high school, they sat us down in freshman year. There were 645 of us in this auditorium, and they told us the person on the right and left side of you will not graduate. I said, we started laughing. Well, guess what? We graduated like 152 of that 600 class. And our freshman year, I think it was like 37 or 40 something girls got pregnant our freshman year dropped out. So, I mean, when I tell you, you know, like the life experiences that I've had, I'm not trying to say mine are worse than any others, but, you know, I've definitely some challenges there, you know? And so the thing is where I got, you know, some of these gifts and you were talking about the imposter syndrome. Yeah, I battle that every day. You know, I've done some really cool things in my life. I won Mr. Ohio as a bodybuilder and I turned pro, but it's weird how your mind will tell you like it was a fluke or whatever it was. You know, I've been really successful in my life and I've had some falls, but I don't ever think I don't know if that's something I'm ever going to be able to grow out of. Like my drive is a double-edged sword because it's also what drives me. But if I don't watch, I've battled depression and I've battled that, you know, quite a bit too, because it's like they're one and the same. The fear of loss, the fear of failure is what drives me. If my back is not up against the wall, like I don't even know how it feels. So every day I wake up like I'm behind. You know, I was talking to another Apex member about him. This guy has a $140 million company. I mean, you know, he's fine. But he's like, you ever wake up every day and you feel like you're behind? And I finally, like, that's what I'm saying. I don't feel like an alien because these are questions that I was asking myself. But then other highly successful people that are even above you are asking you those questions. So I think that in a weird way, we're all fighting these kind of inner demons. And I feel like, do you get stuck or do you move forward? And I think a lot of people, you know, I don't want to say it, you know, but you either shit or get off the pot. You either take the opportunities or you don't. You sit and complain or you have a scarcity. So me, I'm a risk taker because I'll bet on myself every day. I don't want a W-2 job. You telling me I can take this? I've got no health insurance. I've got no, guarantee to make unlimited amount of cash flow, and all I got to do is show up to work. Yeah, I'll take that job. Where most people want the security. For me, I'll put risk above I'll put the risk above reward, because typically where there's a ton of risk, right, the reward's high. So you get these people that, they're working these jobs to get these, gets, a little bit of a base salary, and they got a decent, commission structure, and, they'll work hard, and, they'll become a district manager. But like, look at your managers. Is that who you want to be? I think these are questions that you need to ask yourself. So a lot of my friends are like, man, I'm stuck. I feel stuck. That's because, man, you got to cut that cord. You got to take the risk, but you also have to be in an environment, and you have to be in a mental capacity that you see the opportunities, because the fear of failure, the fear of all, it's going to hold you back, And for me, I don't ever want to look back and be like, man, I should have done that, or I should have done this. Me, I've never made a decision that I wasn't sure about. It might have been the wrong decision, right? But I was all in, right? I think a lot of times people get stuck and they don't make a decision at all, which I feel like is worse, because if you make the decision, it's 50-50. You either get it right or you don't. But if you fuck up, guess what? You can unfuck it, right?
Right.
That's it. So
yeah, there's always a comeback, and that it kind of brings me, like, you brought up a very interesting point too, because living on the west side of Columbus and rough part of the neighborhood, like, there's nothing that would say that, like you laying out the statistics, why you shouldn't have been one of those, especially with your brother and the path that he went down.
Yeah.
And looking, going, hey, you know what? I think I'm going to go down that same path. That stuff happens every day. So, at that point of like elevating your thinking, like, what steps did you have to take in your head in order to elevate, but still maintain your true identity of who you were? Was it a matter of changing environments? Was it a matter of, building yourself to that place and then graduating to that next place? I think a lot of people want to go out and, they want to have everything that mom and dad had, right? Yeah. Right now, I mean, there's kids riding around in Lexuses, they don't even know what it's like to make a cell phone payment. So what did that look like for you? And do you think, like, your environment, like, how did you place yourself in that process?
So I think the first part of that question, you asked, what was the first part of that question? Because it really, like, it triggered something, and then you asked a few more questions, and I got So in that, where you came from, your environment. Yeah.
Right. When you hit that brick wall and you go, damn it, I got to get out of here. I got to do something different. Like, how did you choose which direction to go? Like, what was that process for you?
The process was made for me. I saw what happened to my brother, and I saw where he went, and I wanted no part of it. I didn't like anything about where I was in life and where I wanted to be. I didn't want to be like my parents. I just didn't know. I needed to identify the vehicle to get out. I needed to identify that. I was okay in school. I was a good student, but I was disinterested in school, right? I was one of those people to where I think they've changed school a little bit. Now they're doing a little bit more selective, with like how they teach kids. I was, like I said, I was always told to sit down and be quiet. So I stopped asking questions. I stopped standing out because people would say, like, oh, you're egotistical and you're full of yourself. No, I just had energy and I had questions. But when you start asking questions from people in authority, you get in trouble. See, I was never the kid, like, show me how to do it. I was show me why I need to do this, and then my mind can comprehend it, and then I'll go and do the task, right? But when you start asking questions, people don't like that. They don't like that at all. I was getting thrown out of Sunday school. I was getting in trouble, insubordinate, intolerable, all this shit. Parents calling my dad and stuff. But the thing was, I knew I wanted different. I needed to identify the vehicle. And sales, real estate, that was the vehicle. And after talking to the people that worked at the country club, these people, yes, some of them were generational wealth, but a lot of them weren't. They were in like medical device sales. They were in pharmaceutical sales. They were like in, commercial real estate. So that really planted the seed that, 4 years in college and getting your graduate and getting your PhD, that's really not the way that I saw a lot of these guys doing. I saw that they, they had the 4-year degree, but they did that just because that's what their parents wanted to do. And then they went into sales, which has nothing to do with, any type of formal education. I'm not bashing formal education, but that I just knew I wasn't the student. That just wasn't for me. I needed to find the vehicle. And once I identified the vehicle, mine at the young age was real estate, residential real estate. I went into residential real estate. That was my first big boy job at 21. And then I was like the youngest person. I think I was 16 years younger than anyone else that worked at this company. I remember you had to meet with the corporate shrink and you had to do all these steps. But as an assistant, I think I was making around like 50K base, and then you got your commission. But within like my first month there, I said, look, man, I want to sell houses. So the lady that I was working with, she's like, sell houses, run your appointments, I'll pay you. So I was as an assistant, but I was selling more houses than she was, right? So kind of funny. But that's the vehicle that I needed to identify. And that's where, when that opportunity came my way, I got into real estate over shooting darts one night with these guys. I mean, I got these crazy stories. My buddy was working for this custom builder, and he's like, hey, these guys make like $2.25 a year and they don't work that hard. And I'm like, come on, like, all right, whatever. So we ended up going out and shooting darts, and they're making fun of me, calling me pretty boy and stuff like that, or calling me back, busting the chops. And it was endearing, but that's what they were doing. But these guys are making really good money. I found out one of the guys' assistants didn't show up over the weekend. I showed up to his office on Monday and I said, I'm coming to work for you, and I'm not taking no for an answer. And he couldn't believe it. I was the wrong gender, and he never thought, he couldn't believe I said it, and I got the job on the spot, So I think you just have to know what you want, go after it, and that's it. The key to getting where you want to be is identify the right vehicle and stay committed.
I love that, man. I love that analogy. Yeah, and everything else falls into place. So let's switch gears a little bit too. So I know we talked about that a lot, and a lot of people don't know that you were in fitness. You were managing health clubs and things like that across the United States. Talk a little bit about that, and then like what took you into becoming Mr. Ohio.
Yeah, so you can't buy confidence, right? Money can't buy confidence. Money can buy you things. Money can't buy you health. And I remember in 2004, like I said, I just got my first big boy job. I weighed like 130 pounds. I looked good. Like, I had a decent like swimmer body. I was a model at Abercrombie and Fitch and stuff like that. But I wanted as a man to not look as boyish. I think that's really what it was. Like that whole like boy band stuff. It was funny, but I just wanted to be bigger and muscular in stature. So in 2004, I got a gym membership and I started going to the gym. And I remember telling my boss, I was like, man, I think I'm going to start lifting weights. And he's like, man, you don't have the bone structure for that. Like just, whatever. But these guys are out drinking every night, whatever. But anyway, I got a gym membership. And I remember, I'll never forget it. I was in Grove City. I was working out. I had no idea what I was doing. I should have got a trainer and a dietitian then, but I had no idea what I was doing. But in Columbus, Ohio, that's where the Arnold Classic is. It's where the best side, the West Side barbell guys are. Columbus, Ohio is a hotbed for fitness. A lot of pharmaceutical, or not pharmaceutical, but like the nutraceutical companies or whatever you would call like the sports, all that stuff, they're in Columbus, Ohio. So I remember going to the gym and seeing this Asian guy there. I was like, man, I want to look like that. I remember watching him work out, and I'm like, man, like, one day I'm going to look like that. I'm going to put the hard work in and work out. And I think after 3 months or whatever, I phased out. That's what you do. You don't know what you're doing. But flash forward to 2009, I still had that burning in the back of my head. I started making some money. I was successful, but I wanted the physique that I'd always wanted. It was like I had to settle an old score. I let the forces of average get at me, let me know like, well, I'm too small. I don't have the bone structure for it. So I said, all right, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get a trainer. I'm going to get a dietitian. I'm going to have doctors look at my stuff to make sure I'm healthy, but I'm going to make sure like it makes sense because I'm all in. That was also when the crash in the market was going crazy in 2008 and 9. So I thought like the fitness and the health stuff would be my control because I could control what I put into my body. I could control the cardio and the working out. I can control that. The bank's closing down over here and the world going, kind of crazy was the variable, control variable. This would help me kind of it would be like the glue for my life. So that's ultimately why I did it. So I got a trainer and a dietitian and I'm coachable. He literally told me, he was like, Burton, you're in decent shape now, but we're going to get you very fat. We got to get you anabolic to put muscle on. He's like, you're going to go from fit to fat, from fat to fit. I literally remember saying, I was like, it sounds terrible, but I'm all in. It is what it is. So what happened, I literally put on like 50 pounds and it was a hot mess, but I ended up going from like 136 to like 116 pounds. No joke. And then January, he was like, man, I think, we got to get in shape for the summer. Why don't we do a bodybuilding show? So I dropped down. I dropped to 64 pounds. I came in as a lightweight. and I got in the best shape of my life. And it was over just me wanting to get a good better about myself. The next thing I'm in bodybuilding and doing this stuff. And then just a few months later, I stuck with it. I won Mr. Ohio. The full circle story of that is the guy that took second place was that Asian dude that I saw at the gym back in 2004.
No kidding.
No, full circle. The dude that I wanted to look like, that had all those years of training on me, I was in the same weight class as him. His name's Chunta. I took first, he took second. All I'm going to tell you is hard work beats talent when talent don't work hard. He had some, he had like his legs were a little bit better than mine, but my overall symmetry and my dieting and my aesthetic was better than his. It's because I outdid him. So take that as a lesson. This dude had 6, 7, 8 years on me, and this in 9 months. It's because I put the hard work in, and I literally measured to the gram the amount of food that I was putting in my body, and I didn't deviate from the plan. Coach said do 40 minutes of cardio. I didn't do 38. I didn't do 42. I did it exactly as they said, because if I messed it up, then I would blame them, right? But I did everything to the exact T, and guess what? It won. Took a year off, got a little bit bigger, and they were like, why don't we try to go to nationals and see what happens? Put these board shorts on, do this men's physique category. I'm like, yeah, fine, let's see what happens. Well, let's see what happens turned into I won the whole freaking show, and I turned pro. I became an IFBB pro in men's physique. So to call it like a strategy or like some planned out thing, absolutely not. It was just my competitive nature saying like, yeah, let's see where we can take this thing. Next thing you know, I'm on covers of magazines. I'm on covers of hundreds and hundreds of these romance novel covers. I mean, it's been a hell of a ride, but this lifestyle has coincided and has absolutely complemented my sales career, because it gives people to talk to. You talk to people about, and people respect someone that's in shape and they take care of themselves. So I think it elevated me and helped me with the mindset, and I finally got some of that confidence that I'd always been lacking.
Man, I love that. I love how you broke that down too. And that's like being an IFBB pro, I'm sure like that's something less than 1% of the population will ever achieve or attain,
Oh yeah. I mean, it's probably even less than that, but I think the cool thing is you really, for the most part, if you put your mind to it and you do it and you laser focus, you truly can do it. I mean, it turns out I did have the bone structure for it, right?
Yeah.
My old boss Bill, man, maybe I should call him sometime and be like, hey man, you probably don't even remember saying it to me, but it hurt my feelings. But I thank you for that, because I thought about that every day that I wanted to quit, every day that I didn't want to diet. You don't have the bone structure for it. What are you, silly? It burned me, and I use it as fuel, man. I'm spiteful like that. Maybe call me King Petty, but that King Petty, man, that burned a fire in me that I never forgot. So
that's very important too, man, because that's a perspective. Like I think a lot of people find that no matter what they do, they're like, hey, you're not good at that, or we accept these assignments or proclamations that people put over on our lives. And I'm kind of like you. I get triggered. I'll be quick to jump up and snap back and trap somebody in their words and say, you're going to take that back right now, because I don't believe it. It's like that. I don't know if you ever saw the demonstration Marshall Silver's done, but also Pastor Keith does it too. He speaks over people. Mm-hmm. Like we have such power in the words that we use and the things that we say. And we don't even realize how fast we can transform a life. Yeah. So,
or tear down, brother.
Yeah. Or tear down.
This mouth can be more dangerous, and the words that we say can literally destroy lives. Yours, your self-narrative.
How do you manage haters? I mean, there's guys out there, they're insecure. They see a good-looking guy, and it's the same thing for women too. I mean, they get the same thing.
I think women are just so mean to each other, man. It's crazy. I think if anything came out of COVID this year, I feel people are a little bit more kind to people. I have seen that. I've seen that the relationships that people have had. I do recognize that. I know that they're just going to try to tell you that we're completely polarized and that everyone hates each other, but I'm seeing people pick up the phone and calling people again, because suicide rates are through the roofs. So I am seeing a little bit of a shift of more caring, and I think people are more appreciative when everything was locked down. I feel like a lot of people that were just happy to be out, and people were being more kind and being more and being generous. So I feel like as much as you say haters, luckily I don't really run in the circles to where the nice thing about when you're an adult, you can choose your surroundings. When you're a kid, you can't, you're stuck. So for me, I choose not to be around it. If you want to be a hater and be mean and do all that kind of stuff, guess what? I just won't be around you. And if it's on social media, I just delete it. I don't battle it anymore. But to be honest with you, I know what's good in my heart. I know where I'm at. I'm centered. And I don't let it take me off my game. I can't say that sometimes the comments don't hurt your feelings, but it really isn't about you, man. Them. And I do feel sorry. And people that hate on people for where they're at, you can't judge a book by its cover. Because just like I said, where I came up, you know, I didn't come from a life of privilege. I made my life. So I want my kids to have a life of privilege, but they'll never be spoiled. You know, I have my kids in private school now because I don't want my kids to have to worry about drug deals in school and things like that. I want to set them up better, but I also want to know where I came from. So it's not going to be a spoiled brat. My kids aren't going to be spoiled brats. They're going to be centered because I wanted to choose different, but I chose different for myself. Therefore, I'm able to then, you know, choose different for my family and my daughters and know that they'll never have to, you know, experience the life experiences that I did, you know.
So let's talk about that, man, because I know a lot of people have spent their lifetime, you know, wasting, and especially as it pertains to family and the investment of time. I ain't gonna lie, I probably you know, it's one of those things. I have 3 children with 2 different women, 2 different moms. I was married to one, and the first one I didn't because it wasn't right. But just a lot of people that go through that stuff, and they don't stop. They don't sit there and look at themselves and go, you know what, maybe I should probably not date. But what was your experience like, just in terms of like that path leading up to where you found your wife? Because I think a lot of people have this in their mind. Well, if I just work out, eat healthy, make a lot of money, and, you know, say pretty things or nice things to her, like she's just going to appear like what was your measurement for that in terms of like the type of woman you wanted to be with, you know, the person that your wife is?
That's a loaded question because I feel like my whole 20s, I dated a lot of girls. I mean, there was a lot of girls that came and gone, and I felt bad because I feel like I keep saying like, but I was the right guy for those girls, right? But they were not the right girl for me. You know, and I remember I was really cutthroat. I was very angry. I was very, at a young age, I had such a fear of failure that if there was anything that gave me any doubt, I would cut you off. Like if I was dating someone and it's any slight little thing that, like a fight, I'm out, I'm done, because I was so afraid to like go back to where I came from. If there was anything that I would ask these girls, like, hey, what are your dreams? Like, man, I just really want to be a mom. I would cut them off because I thought it was just my mindset wasn't right, Danny. You know, so like my whole 20s, I was driven from a negative standpoint. The biggest thing that happened to me when I was 30 is my mind shifted and I started adding gratitude in. I'm not trying to be cheesy. And then when I turned 30, I didn't even realize it was gratitude because I thought everything that I did up to that point was me. It was all about me. You know, maybe that's your 20s, right? It's about me. I took some L's. I took some falls, you know what I mean? But I was like, you know, I bootstrapped this thing. I'm going to do this myself. So you get like an ego on you. So I dated a lot of girls. But when I turned 30, I got humbled. I got humbled by the economic crash in 08, 09, and 10. I got kicked in or bounced back. You know, it is what it is. That's when I started getting into the fitness and running the health clubs and stuff like that. But then I was married once. You know, I was married to the wrong girl. She was not on board with what I was doing. Like, she made fun of me when I got my spray tan from Mr. Ohio. She's like, that's about the gayest thing I've ever seen. And I'm like, well, you know, this is what I do. It hurt my feelings, you know? But I won Mr. Ohio, and she was like, oh, that's kind of cool, right? But then over the course of the next year, I turned pro. Now I'm shooting these magazines, and I'm shooting all this kind of stuff, and I'm getting some fame. My social media is lighting up. I'm getting casted on reality TV shows, and guess what? She couldn't handle it. She wasn't the right girl. I married the wrong girl because I wanted something familiar. I wanted the companion, but it was the wrong person, you know? And I don't blame her to this day. Like, I think I was still kind of driven from kind of a negative standpoint. And that was like right in my 28, 29. But then when I turned 30, my mindset changed. I started working from gratitude, but I still didn't know what it was yet. So, you know, I think the biggest thing is this being more appreciative of the time and the things, and then valuing the relationships more. I quit drinking. that was the nicest thing that was the best thing that came from this fitness thing, is I quit drinking, man. So I wasn't putting myself in the situations to, you know, to have these one night stands and to be out late and to get into trouble. You know, I saw a lot of bad things. So I just try to remove a lot of the noise, and I really became kind of homebody. The nice thing about what the bodybuilding thing is, it's a very, very restrictive lifestyle. It kept me out of trouble, but also kept me focused. So, yeah.
I love that. And I love how you started off with gratitude. We'll kind of go through the G code real quick too, because we've been on for a little bit, but
I got to answer the question. So how I met my wife. Sorry.
Oh yeah.
So in 2012, I moved back to Columbus, Ohio, and I was kind of depressed, man. We finished up my contract in South Florida because I was turning around underperforming health clubs, and I came back to Columbus, Ohio. There's a fitness chain that I had worked for, and a lot of my friends worked for. So I came back, like, yeah, just come back and work with us. So I jumped back in, got my old job back, and was doing my thing. And next thing I know, you know, Caitlin was working there, and we met, and she was dating a professional soccer player, and I was this bodybuilder jock. You know, she didn't know who I was, but I wasn't her type. And man, she just really wasn't my type either. I always kind of like this dark-haired little tiny petite girl. She's tall and blonde, so she really didn't fit the profile, but for whatever reason, opposites attract. And we hit it off and went on a few dates. And she seemed the good, bad, and the ugly with me. You know, I was in the beginning of 2012, man, I was talking about, you know, coming from a place of gratitude, man. I was still a sad soul. See, the thing is you can make all the money you want in the world, but if you're not centered and you're not grounded, your mind's going to destroy you. So a lot of those demons that I tried to ignore from growing up, I needed to seek some help. You know, I'm trying to get emotional, but life will creep up on you, you know, so you can run fast, but you can't outrun your past, and you need to get real with yourself. Times we need to take the time and make sure that our mind is right. See, I attempted to take my life because I didn't think I was worth it. You know, I felt like it was the end for me, and I had accomplished all the things that I needed to accomplish. That's where I was at, man. So they went back and calculated out, but I was taking these Ativan pills, which are like anti-anxieties. And I didn't need to be on anti-anxiety. I was probably misdiagnosed, man. I just wasn't being right with myself, and I wasn't living on what I was supposed to be doing. And I was in conflict with myself. So like, I think that's where the anxiety came from. And the depression was, I wasn't living up to my standard. I wasn't living up to what I know I could do, right? That's where the negativity came in. It had nothing to do with chemicals or anything like that. I just wasn't doing my shit. So I took these Ativan. I overdosed on 29 Ativans, what they calculated based on my prescription. And I ate 29 Ativan, 1 milligram Ativan. I should have been dead. 8 will absolutely kill you. And if it doesn't kill you, then you're a mental vegetable for the rest of your life. So how 29, I had a little bit of short-term memory loss, like, you know, for like that first month after, but I was in a coma for days. I woke up and Caitlin was the one there, you know, next to the bed holding my hand. So just like the movies I talk about. So I think the biggest thing is once I got through that, I knew that I had purpose and I was saved. I was saved for a purpose. I just needed to find out what it was. So that's really where I learned about gratitude and being appreciative for the moment. Not worrying about tomorrow. As long as I could get everything I need to get done today, then tomorrow take care of itself. And I wasn't trying to carry yesterday's baggage either, because if you try to take yesterday's baggage and you try to carry it with today's and then thinking about tomorrow's, you're going to be paralyzed. And I had such a fear of loss and such a fear, and I was just so bound up that I couldn't move. And that's what I had to shed, man. I had to let it go, and I had to get it right, and I had to work from the gratitude. And that's when I started getting more positive influences in my life, and then the money came and the relationships came and my life began to flourish.
So I love that, man. I love that. And the gratitude, you're so right about gratitude. It gets you through some of the hardest shit. And you know what? You said a couple of key things, and it's very important, especially as men. We have to unpack our shit.
Yeah.
It's required for us to unpack our shit so that we can be available for those that we have committed to. And those that have committed to us, we owe that to them.
And you need to, and that's a constant, fellas. Like, I want to talk about it. I feel like I'm kind of like a high functioning, I'm a depressive person. That's not really it. I'm not the like go cry in bed type dude. That's not me, right? I'm just a high performing, probably depressive person. I'm undiagnosed, I guess, but I think the biggest thing is we need to constantly work on it. You talk about the imposter syndrome. I think that that's part of that depression thing. And I know we don't want to talk about it, but I feel like as high performing people, we need to talk about it, because I feel like this year I've known 3 people that have killed themselves this year from COVID and being where they're at, and they've had families, man. So we need to check on those people. But as men, look, guys, it's not, man, I know like some of you are sitting here and it's going to resonate with you. You're not weak. I'm not talking about going and sucking your thumb in the corner and being woe is me. I'm not talking about that depressed person. See, the depressed person is typically the dude that's killing, has the biggest smile on his face, but he's running from something. Maybe he's running from himself, or I'm not going to try to put it back like, like you got this, childhood history you got to deal with, right? We're not trying to find our inner child here. But what I'm saying is I was the most high-performing dude. I had the biggest smile on my face, but I was the one who was struggling the most, but I didn't want to let other people know because I didn't want other people worrying about me. You know what I'm saying? So as men, we need to make sure we're checking on ourselves, and it's okay to ask if you need some help. That's why you need to be around the right people. And I think that's something that I hope with my platform over these next couple of years that I could really bring and shed some light to that. So
I love that. Let's talk about the G code. Gratitude.
Yeah.
What are you grateful for right now in your life?
Man, I'm grateful for my health. I had a little health thing that came up, so I'm grateful for my health. I'm grateful for my customers. I'm grateful for my daughters, my family. I'm grateful the opportunity to be around people like you. I'm grateful that this past Friday, I got to speak to a room of 120 business folks, and they were, there to listen, right? They were open to listen. So I'm just grateful to be able to help others along their way. I'm grateful for just everyone that I have in my life. My life is in alignment right now because all the things that I have in my life is because of by design. And by being grateful, I feel like that positive energy, man, it reaches out. When I met you, we hit it off. I was drawn to you, man. You're special like that. So I feel like when you have that gratitude and that mindset, you're going to attract the people that you want. And that's what's going to help battle some of those demons, is when you're grateful, it kind of clears a lot of the noise. So
I got to tell you, since we're talking about that too, and this is very important for you as men, like you have to tell other people if somebody is influencing you, tell them in real time, let them know, because you don't know, you might meet somebody like Burton and think he's got the world by the string, Backstreet Boy, romance cover novel model and things like that. But like, it's the importance of saying that. And it's like for you, Burton, like you work out, you're in peak physical condition. I remember the day, I forgot what ride you were in, but I saw you before you were going to the gym, and Stuman later told me, he's like, yeah, man, Burton still hits the gym 2 times a day, hour in the morning, hour in the evening. I was like, no kidding. And that's like, that inspires me. I'm like, hey, I can do better. Like if Burton can stay in shape like that and still fit everything in and manage his family, I can do all that as well. So
non-negotiables. Yeah,
non-negotiables. Yeah, I just got back from the gym before we came and did this. So cool. I appreciate you leading by example and sharing that. Like always clean, always crisp. We got our uniforms at Break Free Academy, but I'm telling you, man, when I'm in civilian clothes, I'm like, I want to dress like Burton. So, stylish, classy, like it looks great, man. So let's go to genetics, since we're talking about working out and everything. What do you do to stay healthy and stay fit?
So obviously some of my income does come from, the fitness health side, right? But my whole goal is that I want to be able to walk my daughters down the aisle in 20 years. So I have a team of doctors that I work with. I'm regularly doing blood checks. We do plaque scans on my heart. We do sleep apnea tests. I do food scans. I've got a dietitian. But you're right. I mean, I feel like our bodies are like a Ferrari, right? So if we're going to excel in business, in the vehicle that is, your vehicle, you need to make sure that like heart, mind, body, soul, everything is in tune. So just as our physical body, we need to make sure that our mindset's right. So I kind of encompass all of it in there. So yeah, the hour that I'm in the gym in the morning and an hour that I'm in at night, I'm listening to podcasts, I'm listening to books, I'm listening to, Rewire podcast Ryan's, I'm listening to books, I'm listening to motivational stuff, but I'm galvanizing my mind and my body. So I think that's your genetics. This past month, for this next 30 days, you got to challenge yourself, because even when you're like really good shape, like me, like I'm in really good shape, you got to do little challenges. So this next 30 days, I've been 1 week in. I did this 30-day challenge. I did it with Icon Meals and Todd Abrams and Mike O'Hearn. I've never fasted before, but Mondays and Thursdays, I'm fasting. low carb, and I'm doing an hour of cardio in the morning and a 45-minute workout. And at night, I'm doing another 45-minute workout with another hour of cardio. So you want to talk about, I'm already at peak physical condition. I want to take it even better, because you know what? I can still get better. And you got to do challenges like this to mix it up so you don't get stale. See, the thing is you can kind of get in a holding pattern, you know, and that can kind of do bad stuff with your mind too, and you can slip. So constantly I'm challenging myself to get better. I'm trying to find a competitive edge. And I'll tell you, like this past week, my clarity has come back because I refocused my goal and challenged myself, you know? So I think that's really important. Even whenever you feel like you're the best, or you're, you know, you can always be better, man. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to get better. So
I love it. I love it. Let's go to grind. Let's talk about grind. We mentioned earlier on that you knock doors 1 hour a day, the way that you live, the way that you work. Talk about every way that you monetize and make money.
So my main job is roofing and contracting sales. So it's actually about an hour and a half, 2 hours a day that I knock doors. To be honest, I do it AM and PM. With COVID now, everyone's home, so you technically could knock all day long, but you want to be sharp. All right. So in the morning, I get up, you know, I get my fitness stuff. We have breakfast every morning together as a family. That's what we do. And then I go out in the field. I check my jobs. I knock doors, because the jobs that I'm working, I want to be front of mind in the neighborhood. So if I get a job, you know, we're doing a hail restoration or new roof or whatever the project may be, I want the neighbors to know that that's my name on the sign, but I want them to put the face with the sign and get a business card. I want to physically be out there, let them know who I am. And that's also my gift, because I go out there and I come from a customer service standpoint. I'm like, look, working with your neighbor, you may or may not have any damage, but it takes me 5 minutes since I'm already here. Why not let me take a look at it? If there's damage, we'll work with your insurance to get it taken care of. That's my spiel. They tell me to get lost. They slam the door in my face. No big deal. Either way, they know who I am, and I keep it moving. I feel like a lot of people are like, why do you still knock doors, you know, even when you're so successful? Me, it keeps me humble, and I actually enjoy it. Part of my gift is I need to be out. I'm an alley. Me and Nick are talking about, we're alley cats, man. We need to be outside. I'm not the dude that needs to be sitting in an office. So yes, I do a ton of marketing. I got my phone sites. I got my online marketing. I got my social media marketing, but I can technically sit behind a computer all day and just run leads. But that's a trapper mindset. Me, I'm a hunter. So I have to hunt and trap. So I'm doing both. So with the knocking, it keeps me fresh. And then we bring on new recruits. How am I going to tell them to go knock doors if I'm not doing it myself? So for me, it keeps me humble in my mind. It keeps me engaged. And I want to be like a community ambassador, because that's what I do. And I want to be the face of New View Roofing. And that's why I do it, man. It keeps me alive and it keeps me fresh. And I just like to be outside, and I like to talk to people. Even when they tell me to go fuck myself and they slam the door in my face, I still enjoy it. So that's really why, man. Yeah.
It's awesome, because you're riding off in your new ride anyways. Like, oh, it doesn't hurt.
I drive the truck. Yeah. I drive the F-150. Just, you know, I don't have lifted. I don't have stickers on it, but you know, like the hard work pays for, you know, some of the toys that you'll, you know, accumulate along the way. So
I love that. I love that. So let's talk about, like, you're always setting goals in business and things like that. Like, what's your you know, I know you've got passive income too. I remember one time I asked you about, you know, the modeling thing, because, you know, you take pictures when you're younger. I mean, you can basically resell those for years to come, right?
Yeah. So like images that I took back in 2015, like I just did a book cover not too long ago, and I got a fee on that. And I had to, like, what photo was it that they copyrighted? And it was one from a shoot from 2015. So that's kind of that mailbox money we were talking about. But hey, you know, those are nice, you know, even to this day, those are nice to get those little checks.
I like those. And how about, do you have any other streams of income, like ways that you bring money into your household?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a consulting company. During COVID this year, I started a environmental company that disinfects and uses like ozone to clean, you know, offices and homes. So people that are, you know, freaked about viruses or COVID, we have these machines that purify the air using O2. So there's no chemicals. It's literally just using O3. I did that. And then I've got a couple investments out there. I've got an online door knocking program that I created through, you know, Break Free Academy. And there's other few things I've got in the works. And I started flipping cars too. I just sold my Lamborghini today. I put 5,000 miles on my car, and I technically just walked. And I made about $2,500. So you can make money and drive cool cars, because the little kid in me, just like I said, the Countach on the wall, I'm doing it, you know. So
I love it. Well, that takes us to our group. How do you qualify who's in your group? Who's in your group right now?
People are in my group, or honestly, a lot of my Apex fam now is my group, but I know a lot of people. I'm friends with a lot of people, but my inner circle is about 5 people, because those, I don't want to say, we have to be careful, and you have to somewhat keep a lot of people at arm's length. I think that's healthy, right? I think that people get too, I've always kind of kept, you keep your circle close, man. Keep your cards close. You can be friends with a lot of people, but with my group, obviously it's my family, and I've got a few select people that I talk to on a regular. Ryan, for instance, I didn't know him a couple years ago. I consider one of my best friends. Like, we talk and we have, like, there's important conversations. I feel like you're a really close friend of mine now too, Dan. I feel like I can, talk to you, but my sphere of friends is very close. I'm like that. I'm an introverted extrovert, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yep. I know exactly what you're
talking about. Like, when I'm in work mode, man, I go out and I can do it. I network with the cars. I'm in Lamborghini clubs and all this stuff. I can network it, man. But I tell you what, once I can turn that off and I'm back home, I'm happy to just kind of be by myself. I'm kind of always been a little bit of a loner, right? So I get a little bit of both. What's nice about my job is I'm out talking to people, but then I spend a lot of time, driving my truck by myself. So I kind of get both. I think that's healthy.
Yeah, it's a good balance. It's a really good balance, and I'm kind of there too, because you never know. It's you never know who's coming at you, or and it's a weird thing. I always think about my kids, and I always think about the people. Like, would I be comfortable with this person being alone with my children?
That's a really good point. I never really thought about that, but
that's what I always think about. And it's like, and if the answer is no, or I feel like I need to bring my kids with me, like someplace else, that tells me exactly where they fit in my life. But I'm like you too on that. Like, I can go out there, we can get loud and wild and get hype, but I also need that downtime. The drive back from Dallas after the event was phenomenal for me. That was a good 4 or 5 hour trip. And I loved it because it was just me in the car decompressing with time to think.
And you're rerunning, man. I don't know about you, but you're rerunning scenarios and the things that you had. And I think that's where the gratitude comes in, because you got time to contemplate. I'm not one to meditate, because I don't want to meditate when I'm driving, because I'll crash, but I never really tried to meditate. But I think sometimes you just turn the radio off and you just get in your head, and I feel like sometimes that's when the laser beams come, like the lightning bolts come. I wrote a book this year because I was driving in my truck and I'm like, you know what? Like, the system and how I approach my day, I feel like is very valuable, because when COVID was shutting everything down, I had an absolute sure plan. I knew I was going to be okay. And why was that? Because I stuck to my grind. I stuck to my principles. I had a very systematic way that I approach my day. So I was like, no kidding. I think I might share that. I think there might be some value. So you're talking about another passive income? Yes. I wrote it here, and I got an app that's coming with it that's going to basically be a different way to approach your day, because I don't think it's about everyone's trying to find balance, brother, but life ain't about finding balance. So if your work sucks and your social life is great, you can't take your social life and dump it into your work life, because you're going to pull from one. So you're going to rob Peter to pay Paul, right? So why don't we do this? Why don't we point both things in the right direction? Why don't we try to work with your friends and make money, right? So that's what Align Your Empire is about. So I like cars. I network with car friends. Well, guess what? Car friends have houses and they need roofs too. So I do both. So I network while I'm doing my shit. So Align Your Empire as a way to touch on all there's 6 key assets that I talk about. You got to touch them every day, but I'm not doing this. I got to point it all in the right same direction, and they harmonize. It's synergistic because they're all working together. They're not battling. So if I need to put more effort into my business, none of these other things are going to sacrifice. It's not like I'm not going to see my family. You just got to get everything pointed in the right direction, and then you're set. And you just got to manage it, and you're not trying to find balance, because balance is a myth. I'm done ranting.
I mean, I love it. I can't wait, dude. How can everybody get connected with you, Burton?
So on my Instagram is Burton Hughes Official. There's like an underscore in between. So Burton _ Hughes _ official. You can find me on Facebook, Burton P. Hughes. You can also find me on BurtonHughesOfficial.com. We're allowing people to get registered for, pre-register for the book, because we're getting ready to do the pre-sale. I think the pre-sale starts on Amazon January 14th, I think, is the set date. I'll let them do all the business stuff. But yeah, just reach out to me, slide my DMs. You got questions, just let me know. I'm here in Dallas, so let's get together.
I'll tell you, man, like Burton's one of the nicest, classiest, realest dudes that you'll ever have a chance to meet. So, and you'll be fortunate to get any of his time. So make sure you connect with him. And I love it, man. I love it. I'm so glad and humbled that you came to join me too for the Hot 99-ish. So thank you for sharing everything. You know,
I really appreciate you, Danny. You're special, man. You're the ultimate hype man. Like,
thank you, man.
These events, man, you're hyping it up. Like, you're unbelievable.
Take it to the kingdom, man. I promise you. So that's another Hot 99-ish brought to you by Phone Sites, Burton Hughes. And listen, you build a landing page or website in 5 minutes or less. Go to phonesites.com/love and get signed up right now. You got a 14-day free trial. Thanks, Burton.
See you, brother.